This episode of Life Trippin' is called Traveling Companions, and it's about the people around you and what to do if you start to feel like they might be holding you back from the kind of life trip you really want. Part of what spurred this episode for me was working with and observing college students for many years when I worked on a campus. Frequently, students talked to me about roommates or friends who never studied, constantly partied, were self-destructive, made bad decisions about romance, and so on. They didn't want to abandon these people, even though it was making it really hard for them to focus on goals, be successful, or even manage their own lives. At what point in our lives might we begin to take a really good look at who our traveling companions are and how they're affecting our life trips? And now for something completely different. I'm going to tell a kayaking story. I should say right up front that while I can control a kayak pretty well on a lake or a gently flowing river, I'm not talking whitewater situations here, not literally or metaphorically. In my mind, whitewater, if you want to look at it as a metaphor, is crisis or crunch time, not the time to make changes. Actually, that's not a bad episode idea. I'm going to have to write that one down, but it's just not the one for today. In fact, as I continue to explain and explore how life coaching works best, I'd say that when you're in the rapids, whitewater, probably isn't the best time to seek coaching. Maybe another kind of trip consultant, a counselor, psychologist, pastor, or other helper. But kayaks are pretty cool. Whether one or two-person kayaks, they're way easier to steer and to paddle than the old canoes that I grew up with. As long as you're not paddling upstream or against a stiff wind. More metaphors there. One time, though, my wife and I were actually, not metaphorically, kayaking, and we were on a lake, and she decided that she'd like me to, maybe tow her kayak for a while so she could kind of take it easy, and I thought, no problem, I'm pretty strong. It was a few years ago. I'll give her a break. How hard could it be? So we tied a rope from the back of my kayak to the front of hers, and she laid back and caught some rays, and I started paddling. Harder, and then harder, and having to switch sides almost constantly because my kayak would no longer track smoothly through the water. Every stroke I took turned my kayak one way, and the baggage kayak, my wife's probably shouldn't call it the baggage kayak, pulled mine another direction, not to mention how much it slowed me down. It was way more than twice the effort for what seemed like far less than half the result. And after a while, I just said, "Sweetie, I love you, but you're on your own." Now, if things had been different, if she'd been sick or hurt or whatever, I would have paddled upstream all day towing her. But a crisis, it was not. And it was easy for me to know that. So why is it so much harder to do that with people who create drag on our lives? Mostly it happens when being nice is more important than being real, and when taking care of others is more important than taking care of ourselves. You may end up with a whole string of kayaks tied to yours, and it's really hard to go anywhere, to make any progress, to grow, to change, or even just enjoy life. The reality is, though, that it really only takes one kayak, like when we have a friend whose kayak is never out of the rapids, whose life goes from one crisis, at least in the way they see it, to another. A word that occurs to me here is drama. Some people just can't imagine life without constant drama. And if that's you, then cool. Hope it's working out for you. On the other hand, if you've started wondering what it might be like to spend time with people who aren't dragging you into their drama or constantly tying themselves to your kayak, here are some thoughts and questions that might offer you some new possibilities. Question 1. What are some ways you actually enjoy helping your friends? The things that let you use your strengths and skills rather than the ones where you feel constantly out of your depth. How would it feel to give yourself permission not to help in every situation where there seems to be a need? Question 2. What are the costs and benefits of the friendships you have now? Yeah, I know, that sounds kind of cold. Well, maybe not kinda, maybe real, cold and unloving and calculating. But to put it another way, what do balanced friendships look like to you in terms of give and take? And how balanced are the friendships you currently have? Without question, we all need a little help from our friends from time to time. I get by with a little help from my friends. But when it gets to the point that it feels like all give and no take, what else might be possible? Being stuck in relationships that are constantly draining you will, drain you. Sap the enthusiasm, the fun, the joy, and the meaning right out of your life trip. Here's something I've noticed about myself and many clients. We're often a lot kinder and more compassionate to others than we are to ourselves. As one of my coach trainers put it, if we talk to others the way we talk to ourselves, we'd all be in jail. Or to put it another way, would you want to be friends with someone who talks to you the way you talk to yourself? All of this is to suggest that when we're willing to seek our own happiness, we rarely become selfish or self-centered. We, in fact, become more able to support others in the ways that we choose, rather than in ways we feel we don't have any choice but to do. Question 3. How much of other people's baggage are you willing to carry? And how can you do that in a way that is sustainable? I'm not at all saying that we should only carry our own stuff. Life is beautiful and awesome, and it's also painful and terrifying, and sometimes we can't even walk on our own, let alone carry our own baggage. And the beauty and joy of community, of connection, of friendship, is that we can help carry, and when we need it, be carried by others. To borrow the saying, it takes a village to make a life trip. Question 4. What would it feel like to have funny, caring, supportive friends who get it, who get you, who are willing and able to both give and receive support? Question 5. Where are some places or what are some groups where the kind of people you enjoy being around hang out? And if you don't know, who might you ask or where might you start searching? Question 6. If you imagine this part of your life trip as a kind of jungle expedition, who would be your ideal guides? People who know about making changes or transitions, finding or building community, who figured out how to cut the kayak rope for themselves. I'm thinking about mentors, for example, like my friend Tommy Brown and I talked about in a recent episode. Probably someone a bit older than you, with some miles behind them, who is approachable, interesting, and willing to have a beer or coffee with you and share a bit of their story. And here's one more opportunity for you. If you'd like to try some free coaching in return for letting me record a session for possible use on Life Trippin' after you've had a chance to listen to it and make sure you're okay with it, or you just want to talk about what coaching might look like for you, let me know. Send me an email to dana@lifetrippin.com. So that's it for this episode. The theme music is Road Trip by Phil Rivas, used on a Creative Commons license. And don't forget to check the Life Trippin' website or Facebook page for information about guests, upcoming episodes, and more ways to contact me, Dana Sutton, the Life Trip Coach. Go to www.lifetrippin.com. And until next time, keep on trippin'.